When the night comes, that's when we start worrying and making sure that all the doors are locked.
They've tried to kill me, but I'm still alive. I'm waiting for my day to die.
I was not going to wait until there was a gun to my head.
Death threats, murder, a life in hiding. This is not a movie plot. This is the reality for whistleblowers in South Africa. Resisting coercion in the culture of corruption and speaking out against the blatant looting of state coffers sadly does not go unpunished in this country.
I decided I was going to defy both Zuma and Ajay Gupta, and that eventually led to my exit from government.
Former Government Communication and Information System CEO 𝗃𝗵𝗶𝘀 was instructed to direct government's 600 million rand advertising budget to the New Age, a Gupta-owned newspaper. He refused.
I got a cold shoulder from my political establishment, my friends and comrades. People stopped answering calls, I stopped receiving calls.
Ostracizing whistleblowers takes the fight against corruption down a dangerous road. Mandy Wiener is a talk show host and journalist.
Whistleblowers cannot be treated as pariahs, as 𝗵𝗶𝘀s. They cannot be pushed to the fringes of society. If we don't have whistleblowers, it means that corruption will continue unabated. It means that our democracy will be eroded. Speaking truth to power casts a spotlight on dodgy dealings usually hidden in the shadows at the expense of the country, the economy, and its citizens. And those that lurk in the dark, they don't go down without a fight. More than 2 years after his testimony at the Zondo Commission, the first volume of findings on state capture was released in January, and 𝗵𝗂 was reminded that there is a cost to raising the alarm.
Those were the worst 10 minutes of my life.
An attempted home invasion left the 𝗵𝗂s terrified.
I was with my wife screaming, I was shouting, we're trying to get help, and these people were running up and down our roofs.
The intruders avoided CCTV cameras as they moved through the property.
It was a bit dark, but I could see a human being right on top of our roof. I literally froze.
And you're basically staring at him, he's staring at you.
At that point, I'm screaming at the wife to say, please press the panic button.
What was that like, hearing your wife frantically screaming?
It was terrifying. I just said she must lock herself in the bathroom and make sure she's safe.
𝗵𝗂 is convinced it was not a random home invasion. He believes the intent was to send a message.
The fact that nothing was stolen, when in fact it was possible to break any of the classes in the house, was clearly an indication that it was an attempt to intimidate me.
When threats turn to action, the consequences can be sobering. Last year, a key witness in a 332 million rand PPE scandal was gunned down here, outside her home, in broad daylight. 𝗶𝗶𝘀 was silenced for good. In December, 𝗀𝗀 received a posthumous International Special Recognition Award alongside a fellow whistleblower. This man is Thabiso Zulu. There's been attempts to discredit him. He has been hunted down, beaten, and shot for speaking out on municipal corruption in KwaZulu-Natal. He spoke to us from an undisclosed location in rural KZN. Hi, Thabiso. Your signal isn't too great, but let's try this. Are you still in hiding?
I hate to use the term hiding. I prefer to say I move around, I sleep in different places. I'm not a victim in this. I'm a participant in the struggle against corruption.
Last year, Zulu's enemies tracked him down to a location where he was staying with his 10-year-old son.
The fear in the eyes of my son saying, Baba, are they going to kill us? I don't mind dying, but I don't want to die with my son. He hasn't done anything in this world.
The attackers were interrupted, and while both Zulu and his son were unharmed, the message hit home. The stakes are high, and as the facilitators of fraud and corruption feel the net closing in, they even turn on those close to whistleblowers.
My mother was threatened with rape by operatives of the state. They threatened her with rape just because, as I'm a whistleblower, in the Cosa Nostra there is something that is called omerta. You saw nothing, you heard nothing, you know nothing. If you speak it, you have broken an unwritten rule.
But keeping quiet is not an option these crusaders of justice could live with.
I'm a warrior. My mother is a warrior. My grandmother is a warrior. If there is a bullet out there with my name, it will find me one day, but it will find me wearing my own boots in the fight against corruption fighting.
But the fight against corruption appears to have stagnated, according to the 2021 Global Corruption Perceptions Index.
Corruption in South Africa is endemic, and we are simply not doing enough to fight it. We have to entice whistleblowers to come forward. We have to stack the cards in their favor. And the only way to do that is if they are sufficiently protected.
It's a long way to go until the country gets to that point. Whistleblower 𝗃 Williams fled South Africa in November last year.
I never thought I'd be running for my life. It's literally black and white. It's the opposite entirely of what I thought this experience would be.
Williams testified before the Zondo Commission alleging high-level corruption at SARS, implicating the US-based management consultancy firm he worked for as a senior partner. There were rumblings of heightened risk around his safety months earlier, but the threat sank in when 𝗶𝗿𝗃𝗍𝗆 was murdered in August 2021.
It was a quick decision. We lived in an apartment in Cape Town, and so we put that up for rent, put the other things all in storage. Literally just left with 2 bags, with my passport, my credit card. That was it.
That couldn't have been an easy decision.
It was this almost twilight zone for me. I've lived overseas before. I've studied overseas before. So the act of leaving home was familiar to me. My head just felt dizzy and spinning because it just didn't make sense to me. And we were in tears. It was that sense of, I've done something wrong. If this is what I'm experiencing for having stood up and been a whistleblower.
We have to change the way that whistleblowers are treated in South Africa, and that means changing how we think about them. So we need a change in the law. That would mean legal protection, it would mean psychological protection, it would mean ensuring that they have some kind of financial cushion, but we also need a societal revolution.
That's what we've done. We've stood up publicly. We've pointed to where the bad people are. We've named them. And then our society says, well, now you're on your own. You're exposed.
After testifying before the Zondo Commission, Williams asked in vain to be afforded state protection.
Our legislation doesn't cover whistleblowers in the way that it needs to. All we have is the National Prosecuting Authority's Witness Protection Program, and that requires a whistleblower to actually be a witness in a criminal trial.
The wheels of justice turn slowly. While those who facilitated fraud and corruption carry on unaffected, those who broke rank bear the brunt.
A lot of those people are living better lives than whistleblowers as we're sitting here. Those who expose the corruption are sitting without jobs, they can't pay their kids' school fees, some have lost their lives. People's security is highly, highly at risk, and government is not blinking.
Trust in government has eroded, the economy has been crippled, and the credibility of key institutions tainted. This is what state capture has brought about.
We are playing into the hands of the corrupt because no one's going to want to speak up. We will lose our fight against corruption and state capture if we do not support and protect whistleblowers. And no amount of talk by government or spin by corporations is going to change that.
One of the recommendations from the Zondo Commission is around the remuneration of whistleblowers financially. And this is important because if you look at what happens in Europe and in the US, whistleblowers are eligible for between 10 and 30% of a successful whistleblowing reward.
It would go a long way to help whistleblowers in South Africa mitigate the backlash that comes with resisting corruption.
My wife still is terrified. I'm equally terrified. I'm feeling unsafe in my own home. Did I do the right thing? Would I do it again? I think I would try and understand more the security implications, the financial implications, kind of plan for those things in advance. But whether I would do it again, I don't have any shade of a doubt that I would do it again.
Any regrets?
I've seen the good it can do in our country. I think sometimes it comes at a cost, unfortunately, but I'm proud to have been able to serve my country in this way. And I would absolutely do it again.
Giving up is simply not an option if it's at the expense of South Africans.
If I give up now, it will be a betrayal on those who have died in the struggle against corruption. History will record that not every South African was silent. We dodge bullets on a daily basis. Our own children will spit on our graves if we keep quiet.